My name is Jenna Monroe. I'm 30 years old, and I design beautiful spaces for other people to live in. That evening in our family home in Boise, Idaho, the dinner started just like 1,000 others. The familiar clink of plates, my mom asking me to pass the green beans. I was in the middle of a story about a client who wanted an entire room wallpapered in a hideous leopard print, when my dad slammed his water glass on the table. The sound cracked through the warm air like a gunshot. "Jenna, you have 2 days to get your things out," he announced, his voice devoid of any emotion. "This house belongs to your brother now." My fork hovered over my plate, suddenly feeling impossibly heavy. My brother, Leo, the one who'd been chasing a phantom tech startup in San Francisco, hadn't even visited in 2 years. I was the one who had poured my entire life savings, $60,000, into this house to stop the bank from seizing it. I was the one who paid for the new roof, who bought the dining table we were sitting at, who spent weekends sanding and painting until my hands were raw. And now, they were just giving it to him. My mom wouldn't look at me, her fingers pleating her napkin into a tiny, wrinkled square. My dad leaned back, crossing his arms over his chest with an air of absolute finality. A sick, churning feeling rose in my gut, but I refused to let them see me break. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I simply nodded as my mind began to spin, calculating, planning. They thought I would pack my boxes, cry in my car, and vanish from their lives. They had no idea who I had become. In 48 hours, they would walk into this house and understand the catastrophic miscalculation they had just made. I pushed my chair back, my dinner untouched, and walked to my room. They had underestimated their quiet, dependable daughter. And that was their first, and most devastating, mistake. If you're as stunned by that as I was, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with the city you're watching from and what time it is. Let's see just how far this story travels. And if you're ready to see what happens next, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you won't miss a thing. The next morning, I woke up in the bedroom I had personally painted a soft, calming sage green. My dad's words were a toxic echo in my head. "This house belongs to your brother now." How? How could they do this? 3 years ago, in 2022, this house was on the brink. The bank was sending foreclosure notices daily. My parents were drowning in $60,000 of debt they couldn't pay. I was only 27, just getting my interior design business off the ground, but I couldn't stand by and watch them lose our home. So, I drained my savings account. Every last dollar I had painstakingly saved from side projects and late-night design work went straight to the bank. They never asked me to do it. I just did it. Because this house was where I'd taped my first crayon drawings to the fridge, where I'd planned my entire future on the living room floor. But my work didn't stop with the loan. The house itself was crumbling. The paint was peeling in long, sad strips, and the roof had a leak that created a new water stain on the ceiling every time it rained. I worked weekends, took on extra clients I was too tired for, and poured every ounce of my energy and creativity into breathing life back into these walls. I chose the plush navy sofa for the living room, a piece that was both beautiful and durable enough for my dad to fall asleep on. I mounted the new smart TV on the wall, so my mom could watch her favorite British baking shows. I even replaced the ancient, rumbling washing machine after it finally gave up, saving us from endless trips to the laundromat. Each purchase, each choice, each hour of labor was an act of love. I thought I was rebuilding our family's foundation. My brother, Leo, was a different story. He'd left for San Francisco 5 years ago with grand ambitions of becoming the next tech mogul. He'd call a few times a year, his voice always rushed, talking about venture capital meetings and seed funding rounds that never seemed to lead anywhere. My parents drank it all in, hanging on his every word. They'd tell the neighbors, "Leo is about to launch an app that's going to change everything," while I was on my hands and knees, scrubbing the new kitchen tiles I had paid for. The sting of their blindness was a constant, dull ache, but I told myself that my actions, my tangible contributions, would eventually speak for themselves. When the foreclosure notice had first arrived, my dad sat at this very dining table, his head in his hands, whispering, "We're going to lose it all." My mom just cried silently. I called Leo for help, but he didn't even answer. He's in a very critical development phase. My mother had explained, making excuses for him as always. So I stepped in. I handed over my $60,000, the money I'd earmarked for a down payment on a small studio of my own. For a while, they were grateful. There were hugs and thank yous. But gratitude has a short shelf life. Soon enough, their world tilted back to its usual axis, revolving entirely around Leo and his long-distance promises. Last year, I renovated this dining room myself. I found a stunning, modern chandelier to replace the dated, flickering fixture from my childhood. I spent a whole weekend installing it, making sure it was perfect. When I finished, my mom said, "Oh, that looks fancy." My dad grunted in approval. The next day, they spent 45 minutes on a video call with Leo, listening to him describe the new espresso machine he'd bought for his apartment. I stood in the hallway, my hands still sore from the wiring, and felt utterly invisible. It was never just about the money. It was the assumption that my time, my energy, and my future were theirs to command. I was the reliable one, the fixer, the one holding everything together. Leo was the dream, the one who got away. And now, they wanted to give him the house I had saved, the home I had rebuilt. As I sat up in bed, the morning sun hitting the sage-green walls, the sadness I'd felt for years began to curdle into something harder, sharper. It was a cold, clarifying anger. They thought I was a doormat. But last night, they had finally pushed me too far. I wasn't just their daughter anymore. I was their creditor. And they were about to be served a bill they could never have imagined. I reached for my phone, my fingers perfectly steady. I needed to make some calls. My first call was to Chloe, my best friend since college and now a sharp, as-attack lawyer. She picked up on the second ring. "Jenna, you sound terrible. What's wrong?" Pacing the floor of the kitchen I'd retailed myself, I laid it all out. My dad's cold, 2-day eviction notice. The house, my house, being handed over to Leo like a party favor. I told her about the $60,000, about the years of renovations, about the constant, draining effort of being the only one holding our family together. Chloe was silent for a moment, and I could almost hear the legal gears turning in her head. "That doesn't make any sense, Jenna," she said finally. "They can't just kick you out, not after that kind of financial investment. Something else is going on here. There has to be a reason they need you out so fast. Have you seen their recent bank statements? Any new debt?" Her words were a flash of lightning in my confused mind. Finances. My parents were masters of hiding financial trouble. "No," I said, my voice gaining strength. "But I think I know someone who can help me find out." I hung up and immediately dialed Mark, a commercial loan officer, whose bank branch I had redesigned a few years back. He was a straight shooter who owed me one after I'd worked through a weekend to get his project done on an impossible deadline. "Mark, it's Jenna Monroe," I said when he answered. "I need a huge favor, and it has to be completely off the record." I quickly explained the situation, focusing on Chloe's suspicion. "Can you just check if there are any new loans or lines of credit tied to my name at my parents' address? Anything at all?" He was quiet for a beat. "That's a big ask, Jenna," he said. "But for you, I'll see what I can find. Give me an hour." That hour was the longest of my life. I paced the house, seeing everything through a new, suspicious lens. The new coat of paint on the garage door. My mother's recent shopping spree. Were these all funded by something I didn't know about? Finally, my phone rang. It was Mark. His tone was heavy. "Jenna, you're not going to like this," he said grimly. My stomach plummeted. "There's a home equity loan for $60,000. It was taken out 6 months ago." He paused, and I held my breath. "Your name is the primary on the loan. Your parents and your brother Leo are co-borrowers, but you're the one who's ultimately on the hook. If it goes into default, your credit is ruined." The air left my lungs. "Mark, that's impossible," I whispered. "I haven't signed any loan documents." "I'm sending you the PDF of the agreement right now," he said gently. "Jenna, the signature on the document looks like yours." My email pinged. I opened the file on my laptop, my hands shaking, and there it was. My name, Jenna Monroe, in bold type at the bottom of a legal document. And next to it, a signature. It was a good forgery, but it wasn't mine. The loop on my J was always rounder, and I never connected then and then in my last name. It was a clumsy imitation, but clearly good enough to fool a bank. My own family hadn't just betrayed me. They had stolen my identity. I immediately forwarded the email to Chloe. She called me back in less than a minute. her voice stripped of all friendliness and replaced with cold fury. "This is a felony, Jenna," she said sharply. "This is identity theft and bank fraud. We can burn them to the ground with this. But we need more. Search the house. Find any physical paperwork you can. Bank statements, letters, a copy of this agreement. Anything." My fear was instantly replaced by a white-hot rage. I marched up the rickety stairs to the attic, a place filled with dusty photo albums and discarded memories. I started tearing through boxes labeled financials. Under a stack of old tax returns, I found it, a plain manila folder. Inside was a letter from the loan company, addressed to my parents, warning them that they were 2 months behind on their payments. And tucked behind it was a crisp, original copy of the same loan agreement Mark had sent me. That ugly, fake signature stared up at me from the page. It all clicked into place. The loan was approved 6 months ago, right after Leo had slunk back from San Francisco with his tail between his legs, his startup dream officially dead. He'd come home broke and desperate, and my parents, instead of making him face the consequences, had conspired with him to steal my good credit, my future, to give him a fresh start. My mom's silence at dinner, my dad's cold command. It wasn't about giving Leo the house. It was about getting me, the evidence of their crime, out of it before the whole thing imploded. I sat on the dusty attic floor, the papers in my hand, and my transformation was complete. I was no longer their daughter, the one they could rely on and discard at will. I was the victim of a crime, and I was about to become the architect of their downfall. I went downstairs, my movements precise and deliberate. They gave me 48 hours. I was going to use every single minute. I grabbed a notepad and started walking through the house, room by room, making a list. The navy sofa, the smart TV, the washing machine, the dining room chandelier, the custom-ordered blackout curtains in my bedroom. Every rug, every lamp, every pot and pan I had ever bought for this house went on the list. These weren't gifts. They were assets. My assets. Then, I picked up my phone and Googled, same-day movers and voice. I found a company with 5-star reviews and dialed the number. "Yes, hello," I said, my voice as calm and cool as a frozen lake. "I need a full furniture move out this afternoon. How soon can you be here?" The man on the phone, his voice a gravelly baritone, confirmed a 3-man crew would be at my address by 2 p.m. I hung up, a strange sense of calm settling over me. They had given me a deadline to be a victim. I was setting my own timeline to be a survivor. I walked through the house with a roll of bright pink sticky notes, marking my territory. Each note was a declaration. Minin, the sofa, the TV, the washing machine, the custom curtains, the modern chandelier I had so carefully installed. I went into the kitchen and tagged the microwave, the coffee maker, and the expensive set of knives my mother loved to use, but I had paid for. Every item was a ghost of my misplaced love, a fragment of the life I had tried to build for them. I wasn't leaving a single ghost behind. Just as I was labeling the entryway rug, the doorbell rang. It was my neighbor from across the street, Mrs. Gable, a kind woman with sharp, observant eyes, holding a small pot of purple orchids. "Jenna, dear," she said, her brow furrowed with concern. "I saw you through the window. You look like you've seen a ghost. Is everything all right?" I managed a tight smile and let her in, though the sight of her kindness made my throat ache. I gave her the short version, leaving out the fraud for now. "My parents and I had a disagreement. They've asked me to move out." Mrs. Gable set the orchids on the counter and shook her head, her gaze sweeping over the pink, tagged items. "Asked you to move out? After everything you've done for this place?" She scoffed. "Honey, I remember you on a ladder in the pouring rain last year, fixing those gutters yourself. Your parents would go on and on about your brother's big ideas in California. But you were the one here, keeping this house from falling down around them. It never seemed fair." Her words were a balm on a wound I didn't even know was still bleeding. It wasn't just in my head. Other people saw it too. "They're about to learn a lesson in fairness," I said, my voice harder than I intended. Right on schedule at 2 p.m., the moving truck rumbled into the driveway. The crew was efficient, professional, and asked no questions. It was a surreal experience, watching the home I had so carefully curated be dismantled piece by piece. The navy sofa was the first to go, leaving a gaping hole in the living room. The TV came off the wall, revealing the clean, unblemished paint behind it. The washing machine was hauled out of the laundry room, its absence making the small space echo. It wasn't sad. It was surgery, a painful but necessary removal of a part of my life that had become toxic. As the movers worked, I got a text from Chloe. Complaint drafted. Just need your final go. Ahead. We're suing for loan nullification, credit damage repair, and punitive damages for emotional distress and fraud. I replied with 2 words: do it. By 4 p.m., they were done. The truck was loaded with my life. I stood in the cavernous, empty living room. The house felt hollow, stripped of the warmth I had given it. The front door swung open and slammed against the wall. It was Leo. He dropped his suitcase, his face a mask of arrogant triumph that quickly morphed into confusion, then rage. "What the hell is this?" he yelled, his voice echoing in the empty space. "Where is everything? This is my house now, Jenna. You were supposed to pack your clothes, not strip the place bare." I crossed my arms, my back straight, the loan documents in my purse feeling like a shield. "Your house," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "I just took back what was mine. The furniture, the appliances, the curtains. You know, all the things I paid for while you were off playing entrepreneur with Mom and Dad's money." His face darkened. "You have no right," he snarled. "Dad gave me this house. You're just supposed to be gone."
"Oh, I'll be gone,"
I said, stepping closer and pulling the folded loan agreement from my purse. I let it unfold in my hand. "But first, we should talk about this. The $60,000 loan you, Mom, and Dad took out by forging my signature. I guess you needed some seed money for your next failed venture." The color drained from his face. For a split second, I saw pure, unadulterated panic in his eyes before the bravado slammed back into place. "You're crazy?" he stammered. "You're just making that up because you're jealous." "Am I?" I said, tapping the paper. "Market Boys First Bank was kind enough to send me a copy. Your name is right here, Leo. A borrower on a fraudulent loan. You really thought I was that stupid?" The commotion brought our other neighbor, Mr. Peterson, to the door. He was a retired mechanic, a man of few words but immense integrity. "Jenna, everything all right over here?" he asked, his steady gaze fixed on Leo. "Just having a family discussion, Mr. Peterson," I replied, not breaking eye contact with my brother. Mr. Peterson looked at the empty room, then at Leo's furious face, and then back at me. "I saw the movers," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Jenna, I've seen you pour your heart and soul into this place for years. Whatever is going on, you know you have my support." Leo scoffed. "Mind your own business, old man." Mr. Peterson stepped fully inside, his presence filling the doorway. "It becomes my business when I hear a man yelling at the young woman who single-handedly saved this house," he said, staring Leo down. Cornered and exposed, Leo did what he always did. He grabbed his phone and called our father. "Dad, you won't believe what she did," he shrieked into the phone. "She took everything. The entire house is empty." He paced back and forth, a wild animal in a cage of his own making. Mr. Peterson gave me a small, encouraging nod. As Leo continued his tirade, I walked calmly to the door. Leo hung up, his eyes blazing with secondhand fury. "Dad is furious?" he seethed. "He says you're disowned. You are going to regret this for the rest of your life." I held up the loan agreement one last time. "No, Leo. You are," I said, my voice clear and final. "I'm filing a lawsuit in the morning. Identity theft, bank fraud, the works. The next time you hear from me, it will be through my lawyer. You and Mom and Dad can try to explain that forged signature to a judge." His mouth fell open. The rage in his eyes was replaced by the same raw panic I'd seen before, only this time, it stayed. He had no answer. He had no more moves to make. I turned my back on him, walked out the front door, and locked it behind me, leaving him standing alone in the hollow shell of the house he thought he had won. As I drove away, I didn't look back. I wasn't just leaving a house. I was leaving the ruins of a family I had tried so hard to save, and I was driving toward a future that was, for the first time, completely and utterly my own. That night, I stayed at Chloe's apartment. We spread the documents out on her dining room table. The forged loan agreement, the bank letter from the attic, and years of my own bank statements showing the initial $60,000 bailout and countless payments for utilities and repairs. It was a paper trail of my servitude, and now, it was the arsenal for my liberation. By morning, the lawsuit was finalized, a meticulously crafted document detailing their conspiracy to commit fraud. I signed it, my hand steady, my heart resolved. We filed the papers at the Ada County Courthouse before noon. The clerk stamped the documents with a heavy, satisfying thud that echoed the closing of a door on my old life. Walking out into the crisp Idaho air, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. The fight wasn't over, but I had chosen the battlefield, and I was armed with the truth. The papers were served to my parents and Leo the next day. I can only imagine the panic that must have ripped through their stolen sanctuary. The case moved with surprising speed. Their defense was pathetic. Their lawyer tried to argue that I had verbally agreed to the loan, that it was a family arrangement. But the evidence was irrefutable. Chloe systematically presented the forged signature, the bank records, and a notarized affidavit from Mr. Peterson, who testified to witnessing my years of unpaid labor on the house. We stood before a judge in a small, wood-paneled courtroom a few months later. My parents sat hunched across from me, looking frail and defeated. Leo was next to them, his swagger completely gone, replaced by a sullen, nervous energy. He wouldn't look at me. When the judge delivered his ruling, his voice was stern and left no room for ambiguity. The loan was declared fraudulent and immediately voided. My name and credit scrubbed clean of its existence. My parents and Leo were held fully liable for the $60,000 debt, plus court fees. As for me, they were ordered to pay $10,000 in damages for emotional distress and the blatant theft of my identity. The final blow was the house itself. As the collateral for a now defaulted loan they were responsible for, the bank immediately began foreclosure proceedings. I didn't stay to watch their reactions. I walked out of that courthouse with Chloe, the weight of a lifetime lifting from my shoulders. "You're free, Jenna," she said, giving my arm a squeeze. And for the first time, I truly was. The phone calls started the next day. First, a shaky voicemail from my mother. "Jenna, how could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you. We're your family." Her voice was thick with tears, but it was the weeping of a gambler who had lost a bet, not a mother who had lost a daughter. Next, my father. His voice was sharp with rage and blame. "You've ruined us. All of this for a little bit of furniture. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family." They still didn't get it. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry they got caught. I listened to each message, and with each word of their self-pity, my resolve hardened. They had never seen me, only what I could do for them. I deleted the voicemails. Then I blocked her number, and then his. Leo called a week later from a blocked number, his voice a pathetic mix of anger and pleading. "You think you're so much better than us, don't you? Sitting in your new life while we have nothing. You owe us, Jenna. You could fix this?" I listened, felt nothing but a distant pity, and blocked his number too. The silence that followed was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. Months later, I stood in the living room of my new apartment, a sunny one-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood near the Boys River. The navy sofa sat against the far wall, catching the afternoon light. The modern chandelier I had bought for them now hung above my own small dining table. Every piece I had reclaimed was now arranged in a space that was truly mine, a testament not to my sacrifice, but to my survival. I heard from Mrs. Gable that the bank had auctioned the house for just enough to cover the loan. My parents and Leo were forced into a cramped, run-down rental on the edge of town. Their reputation in our tight-knit community was shattered. Leo was working a dead-end retail job, his San Francisco dreams a bitter memory. My parents, who once held their heads so high, were now cautionary tales whispered about at neighborhood gatherings. I felt no joy in their downfall, but I felt no guilt either. They had built their prison brick by brick, lie by lie. I was too busy building my new life. Free from the constant drain of their needs, my design business flourished. I took on exciting new projects, and my creativity soared. I was building a life based on my own merits, my own terms. Looking back, I see the painful lesson in it all. Family should be a safe harbor, not a place where your trust is plundered. Loyalty is not an excuse for exploitation. I spent years trying to earn their love by being useful, only to realize that their love was a currency I could never afford. Standing up for myself, filing that lawsuit, and walking away was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it taught me that my worth is not negotiable. I am not the family fixer anymore. I am the architect of my own life, and the foundation is finally, unshakably strong. The end. Thank you for staying with me through this incredible journey. My story is a testament to the fact that you can rebuild your life, even after the deepest betrayals. What would you have done in my situation? I would be honored to read your thoughts and your own stories of strength in the comments below. If this story moved you, please show your support by giving it a like, sharing it with someone who needs to hear it, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, because you won't want to miss what's coming next.